rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, we're here for appeal number 2023-01. I believe this is hearing number 9. At this point, I'll turn it over to our solicitor, Mr. D, please.
Yeah, I think where we left it off, well, just kind of a summary for everybody to kind of see where we're at. I think where we're at is, I think Mr. Blasey has 2 witnesses, lay witnesses, no experts. I believe at that point, Mr. Cousins potentially has 1 witness.
Yes.
No experts.
None.
And Mr. No, Mr. Kaplan, and I think you had indicated that you do not have any more witnesses, at least at this time. You don't anticipate anything. Okay. So the thought process for tonight is we're going to get through the witnesses, see how long that takes. We're going to open it up to any individuals with party status. Okay. I don't know how many of you are still here, but we started with many. I think we were down to a few. And then after that, we're going to open up the public comment. Okay? We're going to see if we get done tonight. Okay? If we don't get done tonight, we will reschedule a hearing, and then I think at that next hearing, we will have a decision. Okay? So that's kind of the thought process, see how far we get tonight. Because I anticipate there are going to be questions from the board, at least during deliberations and things like that, that will, it's not going to be something they're going to decide on the spot. At least I don't think, but. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Mr. Blasey unless there's anything else from any council. Okay, and I just want to note, if you did request party status, can we just note that who is here that still had party status? Mr. Tripoli, I think. Clark, I always forget your last name.
Joy, J-O-Y.
Okay.
Lorero.
What was the first name?
Mike.
Mike Guerrero?
Lorero.
Lorero. Mr. Angle? No one else?
Who was the first gentleman?
Mr. Tripoli, I think, stood up first. Mr. Tripoli, Mr. Clark, the gentleman in the back. Mr. It was A something, right? True. Yeah. Joy, that's right. And then Mr. Lorero. And then Mr. Angle was the other one. Okay, Mr. Blasey.
We have a first call, Sharon Duffield, please. Sharon, can you come up here?
Do I need to sit or can I just take it?
Like an offer of proof, Mr. Blasey has represented Ms. Duffield and presented his case. I don't understand now what's the purpose of Ms. Duffield testifying.
She's the party, and she's lived here for 30-odd years. So
I mean, she'd be entitled to speak at public comment anyway, Mark, so go ahead. Go ahead, Doug.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Make sure you bring that microphone.
Yeah, this is a problem.
I'm going to take the one off the podium, if you can.
I'm not sure I can be.
I don't know, if you're removed, that's why I asked.
Give her this.
Stand.
Give her this.
Hello?
Before I actually start, I'd like to offer her testimony to be marked. And I know there'll be hearsay objections and conceivably objections to it, but I'd like the board to have it, and then you can strike parts of it, you can do with it what you will, but she will be speaking essentially from many of these points. So I'd like to have it available to you for questioning and for whatever purpose you wish. I think I am up last time, Dr. Elliott's was I-27, so this would be I-20.
Nine. I
I mean, is
object.
it redundant? I mean,
You know,
this, you're just getting this now, obviously, right?
this is what she's going to be speaking about, and you can consider or strike any portions of it.
That's not the way it works.
Yeah, I mean. Uh,
Oh, boy. Adrian, do you want?
No, don't worry about it.
So that would be I-28. As I said, it can be rejected, but you will be trying to cover these points. And
Let's hear her testimony and see if it's even necessary. It may not even be needed.
Ms. Duffield, would you first tell us where you live and a little bit about how long you've been here and your family experience in this community?
I live at 554 Potomac. I've lived here for 36 years. I lived on that property for 36 years. I've lived in the immediate area of the drip field that's being proposed on the original 80-acre farm where my home now stands. It was bordered and it continues to be bordered by the drip field property and that bordering farmland. So I've had a lot of experience with that land. I have roamed on that land and the properties that abut it for many, many years.
And can you tell us what your concerns are for this proposal?
My concerns are that when we made the commitment to establish our residency here, and I will elaborate, my family goes back 5 generations in Mount Bethel, back to my great-grandparents. When we made the commitment to build our lives here, build our home here, invest the years of our life, our time, our money, our hearts and emotions and everything we have, it was based upon knowing that that land was residentially zoned and agriculturally zoned. That was a conscious decision that we made. And it was made based upon what we knew to be the case and what is still the case right now today. My concerns are for health, are for our quality of life, are for our welfare and the effects on us due to the proposed drip field being placed on that land.
Are you aware of any particular characteristics of the property, of the surround, of,
I'm very familiar with the property, as I said.
I'm going to object. There's already been expert testimony.
Which property are we talking about?
I'm talking about the property where the drip field is, and I'm talking about the properties that surround it. As far as any concerns regarding redundancy, my testimony was intended to happen prior to the expert witnesses. Yes, in fact, the expert witnesses have confirmed a lot of exactly what I do know. And what I do know
Then
is,
I object.
and what I do
I
know,
object to the repetitive testimony.
That's what you hired the experts to testify about.
because there's additional information.
Okay, well, let's get to the additional information. Yeah.
The information regarding that property and the water concentrations, the makeup of the endangered species that populate that surrounding area are things that I'm also concerned about. The species themselves that are there that we have seen and that is noted in what I have written are things like the wood turtle, the yellow spotted turtle, the salamanders. Those are all items that I can testify exist and are part of that property. The land is wet, it is high. The water that runs off of it now in the heavy rains is problematic. The amount of water that is now proposed to be an addition put on there and the density of that is equivalent to 13 houses per acre. That's a concern to me. The wells being affected is also a concern to me, and that is the question that I was asked.
Ms. Duffield, when our expert, our appraisal expert testified, he spoke about awareness in the community of this proposed site. Do you have a perception or knowledge about when it was clearly spoken about and being talked about in official township circles?
Objection.
Yeah, very clearly.
Objection.
Very
Well, I don't even know what the
clearly.
question, hang on. What,
When our, Ms. Duffield, when our expert, our appraisal expert testified, he spoke about where in the community for this proposed site. Do you have a perception or knowledge of when it was clearly spoken about and being talked about in official township circles?
when what was being talked about? I don't even understand the
This
question.
project. So this is the next exhibit I'd like to have marked.
So this is in relation to what expert?
This is just a reference to the township meeting when the Brookfield was being discussed and the date when it was discussed, because there was a challenge earlier that to the chronology that our expert was using. In fact, it was being talked about in the township even.
Well, the project itself, but and I think this is kind of been going on all along, but we are conflating the project itself and the drip irrigation. The question is when was the drip irrigation field discussed about that particular property?
Correct.
That's what you're saying was discussed, okay.
Wait, hey, excuse me. The testimony, right in the expert's report, said he was measuring it from the date of the submission of the application. Now
If-
we're gonna try and stretch this preposterous theory to some time before.
Oh, no, I think he measured well before the project was even submitted an application, Mark. I think he submitted comparables from 2017, I think.
Yeah, but
It was certainly before the application.
The point of offering this is simply to have an actual township reference to a public meeting where the Board of Supervisors was considering it. So to the extent there was any question
We
as to
won't
when
object to
the
that.
project was in the public sphere.
Okay, so just give me the date. He's not objecting to it. Give me the date. He's not objecting to it. Just give us the date.
Our neighborhood was made aware,
There's no questions. Hang on.
oh, I'm sorry, thought I was answering.
Let me just hand it.
Okay, and this was for specific, you're suggesting this was specifically on the, I mean, are we waiving attorney-client privilege here?
Wait, Chad, we made multiple presentations with regard.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to clarify, is when was it specifically discussed, or when was it specifically brought, I mean, I can look at the deed to see when the property was purchased, but, I mean, what we have here, Doug, first of all, is a bill.
I have an issue with this.
Of course you do. I don't even know what's going on. Why are we submitting bills from the township that literally discuss what was discussed with township officials between the attorneys? What do you,
It's part of establishing the date. The date that that can be removed. That was public knowledge at the time. And this was discussed in our neighborhood at a meeting in August of 2020. Present at that meeting was the business manager for the township, and the residents were informed about the drip field in August of 2020.
And I would just like to have this exhibit not entered into evidence. It's the township solicitor's bill, and I know it would be subject to open records request, it shouldn't be.
Cat's
put
out of the
in here.
bag here, Adrian. I don't know what to do.
I mean, I don't know how it was produced, and so if there's any issue about it being entered into evidence.
Be a right to know request.
All right, so her testimony is that she had knowledge of it in some way, or it was discussed amongst neighbors. In August of 2020? I believe
In
you said?
August of 2020, there was a meeting. The township manager was present at that meeting. Residents asked questions because they were concerned about what was going to happen with the waste for RPL. We were told
Can you please?
there would be a drip field, that the waste would be pumped across Potomac Street, and the drip field would be across the street. Public knowledge, we all knew who owns that land across the street, which was Ron Engel. This was discussed in 2020. It was confirmed. We saw people digging holes and doing things. Prior to that, Mr. Valentine also testified to the fact that that land was tested in 2019. So timeline-wise, I'm trying to clarify, indeed, neighbors knew, people were talking, and as Mr. Sterling had stated, yes, there is a perception regarding that property for that reason.
Okay, so you're saying 2019 now?
2019, Mr. Valentine testified that he had tested that land. That was prior to it was even sold.
Okay.
As he noted, 10 parcels were tested, 4 of which were on RPL land, the others were not. And he also testified that he did test this land.
This particular parcel, I don't care about any other
Correct,
parcel.
this particular parcel.
This particular parcel, your testimony is, you had knowledge of it in 2019 now?
I'm stating Mr. Valentine testified to your board,
Mr. Valentine's already testified, we can go back and
Correct.
look at the transcript. We don't
and he
need-
testified 2019. We had knowledge of it in the neighborhood in 2020.
And was she sworn?
Yes.
Oh, you were just waiting, I'm sorry.
I was waiting.
Well, I wrote it in here, but I'm saying, well, I'm gonna ask.
The reason I offered
Objection, put a question on the table.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood, I didn't hear that.
The objection was you're not asking a question, what's your, I understand what you're saying. The testimony was that, her testimony was that there was a meeting, or at least Mr. Valentine's testimony was, her recollection of Mr. Valentine's testimony was that there was some sort of testing in 2019. And her testimony was that in August of 2020, I think you said,
In August of
was
2020,
when they discussed
the
it.
entire neighborhood was aware.
And I thought the record may have some testimony that was confusing as to when the public began to have knowledge of this event. And so I simply wanted to establish some of the earlier dates that were involved.
Okay.
And this would be, I didn't realize it was a privileged document. It was made available to us. It shows it was clearly discussed at a township meeting in early 2021. It's simply for that purpose. Let's see what else there is, what stuff else. What other concerns do you have for this project and its potential impact on your current home and on your water supply?
The personal concerns that I have on the effect on our home is the perception of the neighborhood with the drip field being proposed on that residentially zoned property. Since this all began back then, with the date that I was trying to clarify, and it became wide knowledge at that meeting, I've been watching the number of houses that have gone up for sale. And in my testimony, you can read that over the past 5 years, the Northampton County deeds list shows the activity of the houses in that area. And I'll be very specific. I'm only talking about the area of my immediate neighborhood in a radius of about a mile, mile and a quarter. That's what I looked at, and that's what I've been watching. I know the people in those neighborhoods very well because I regularly knocked on doors, distributing information. Linda Monks is the block person who called the meeting that the township showed up to and where we learned about the drip field. I'd been watching houses sell. I'd been watching people leave. And you will see in my testimony
Let me
that
object. This is just
in
total-
that amount of
excuse me.
time,
This is just speculation.
no, it is not. I have the document if you would like to see it.
I object to this line of testimony.
There's no speculation. I have a copy of the Northampton County deeds list that were produced by the county over the last 5 years. I've marked out all of the houses that have sold in that 1 to 1.25 mile over that period of time. I've looked at them from year to year. At the time that the drip field became known, the amount of houses in my neighborhood that started to sell grew.
Doug, I'm trying to be respectful, but we spent probably 9 hours of testimony on the real estate issue. They hired an expert
Yes.
to do this.
And I do have the list she created, and I'll be very frank, what my legal purpose is here. I think if the board becomes, if the board concludes that the value of the home issue, we're the only ones to have presented an expert on this point, is critical to its determination. It may wish to retain a neutral expert in this matter or ask the
Objection.
other parties to do that. Otherwise, we've got the only expert who says the market has been affected by this. And Ms. Duffield was just trying to indicate from her work and the list, all the homes that are relevant. So if you wish
So
to
wait,
do
wait,
further
wait, wait.
work,
Are these homes that he did not include in his report?
I have not compared.
This has nothing to do with his report. This is about the churning of the real estate. This is about my neighbors
Are there two
leaving.
different sets of homes that are being sold that he would have seen and she
No,
wouldn't have seen? I
we're
don't
not saying
understand. How could there be two different sets?
We're not saying there's two different
Well, then why would
sets.
we be talking about those sales
I'm
again?
talking about the churning of the real estate. I'm talking about people
was
leaving.
he
I'm
talking
talking
about?
about the stability of my
Ms. Duffield,
neighborhood.
what did you hire him to talk about? Because I'm pretty sure that's what he talked about for.
He's a real estate expert
9
that
hours.
did his valuation, sir. I'm talking about the churning of the real estate. I'm talking about people leaving. I'm talking about my
He literally talked about the
neighborhood.
time on market and how quickly or how long it turned into sell.
No,
She's
no,
not-
that's not what I'm saying. Did you hear what I said?
Okay.
We're done.
I said I'm talking about the numbers of
I object to
houses.
this. First of all, what
Doug,
she's saying,
Okay.
I don't, Doug, we can't go through the stuff about the real estate again.
I hear you.
We're not. I'm talking about the number of houses that are sold. I'm talking about worrying about the decline in my neighborhood because people aren't staying. They are leaving. And they're leaving because a drip field is going to.
objection, this
Okay.
is all hearsay. What she wants to talk
No,
about
it's not.
is
It's
hearsay.
documented. It is documented.
No, it's not.
It is. And a mile,
All right,
52 homes being sold within a mile.
I'm gonna put an end to it.
Okay,
the-
Sharon, we gotta stop.
Okay.
All right,
What are we
Sharon,
doing?
This was simply a set of data if it was useful to the board, and we won't present it, period.
I just don't understand, like, how could this be, what else could this offer that you had, that the expert who spent the most, literally the most amount of time testifying in this entire hearing spent, what else could that be? I don't
I'd like to
understand.
get back on that. 1 second, I'd like to hear.
Yes, please.
I understand your concern that we don't want repetitive testimony. However, I am not hearing from this witness the same testimony that we heard from the expert. He talked about value,
Right.
right? In every way he did.
Adrian, you weren't here for the entire hearing. He talked about the amount of time the properties were on the market, how quickly or
That's
how
not what
slowly
I'm
they were.
talking about.
Because she's talking about the number and the volume of people that left. I think that's
Okay.
distinguishable.
Yeah, but-
I think
Okay,
that's
okay.
relevant.
Listen, let it in.
Ah, come on.
The number of
Mark,
people
what
that
do you
have
wanna
left affect the neighborhood.
He's gonna ask a question and she's gonna say whatever she wants to say. It doesn't matter. We're gonna be here all night if we don't do this.
Go ahead.
The
Go
number
ahead.
of people that have left affect the neighborhood, the stability of the neighborhood, the upkeep of the neighborhood, whether or not transient residents are coming and going. And from the time that the strip field started, I'm not talking about valuation. I'm talking about numbers of houses that people have left. My friends, people I know and have lived next to for years, are gone. And they are gone because of the worry
Objection.
regarding the
All right,
drip field.
so that's not-
Sustained.
Red mark, this is I-30. That's just simply the list. And she's referring to.
Objection as to relevance.
Relevant because it was an activity she undertook and she testified.
Does this include the properties that he had that the other expert didn't have?
That is simply a list generated by
I'm
Northampton
I'm
County.
talking to Doug. You're testifying. We have to do this somewhat professionally. We can't just have questions and then we talk about whatever.
Sorry, I'm not a lawyer.
But he should be talking to you. You hired one. He should be the one instructing you that you're supposed to answer the question that he asked. Those are the rules. I'm letting you say whatever you want to say. But those are the rules.
No, it's all right, don't worry.
Okay.
Simply is to document what she said she did.
Objection,
Fine.
ask a question. Stop testifying.
Is there anything else you would like to tell the board?
My other concerns are regarding the health of my own personal family, are regarding my well and the exposure to that well. We're dependent on our well. We are dependent on what goes into that well. And residentially zoned land, having general industrial waste effluent, is not what was expected. My husband has mantle cell lymphoma. It is not curable. His health is dependent upon many things, but our water, our air, our quality of life and stress levels all affect that. So to me, this is nothing we bargained for. That's residential land. We moved into a neighborhood where this, as far as we knew, wouldn't exist. So our health is something that's a concern to us. Our quality of life is something that is a concern to us. Our values of what we have in living there is a concern to us. Those are all items that I have listed.
Is there anything else before we conclude your direct
Objection.
testimony?
Let me ask a question.
She's
Just an
question.
invitation to make another speech.
Can you ask a specific question, Doug?
No, I think I've asked sufficient questions. Turn the witness over to the board and
Mark,
for
I have no
questions.
questions.
no questions. Adrian,
No, I don't have any questions.
questions from the board members?
What is this? I don't understand.
The list that I've given to you is from Northampton County Deeds. It's all of the deeds that were recorded from 2019 to present. At the tops, I've written the amount of homes sold per year, and I've ticked off the houses only within the immediate area of Potomac, Crystal Terrace, Allegheny, that epicenter that is going to be affected. And it shows the volume and the churn rate and the turnover of people who have exited. Within the past 5 years, in that very small area, 52 people have sold their homes.
Ms. Duffield, you understand that once this project was operational, that either the municipal authority or the township would be the one in control of the sewage treatment plant, correct?
No.
You didn't understand that?
No, sir, because that wasn't being discussed at the time.
I think that's why it was turned over to the authority. That's why the authority was created.
Excuse me, but that just happened.
No. I think the applicant said from the beginning, when Mr. Bechter was here, that the plan is that once this plan is built, that it would be turned directly over, signed directly over to the township and/or authority.
None of that was discussed with us.
Okay, well, I think that was testified
time.
to.
That's not true.
And that is not what we were told. So no, I'm
Mi-
sorry, no.
Mr. Kaplan, I mean, I'm pretty sure that was testified.
It's been that way since the beginning.
Okay.
That's inaccurate.
Not in the public
I think there
record.
was testimony at the very first hearing that that was what the plan was.
There's testimony, okay, so
Not
I'll just
in
say
the
this
public
for
record.
a point of order, that the original application was for a private, not a public, and the municipal authority was created after that application was rejected.
But this application here,
This application, I will grant you that in February, that was the testimony. But what I believe the witness is talking about is prior to that, so,
but she's been here since day one.
correct.
So I'm asking her now that she's been here all of this time period, does she understand that the application that we're dealing with here, that the intent is that the sewage treatment plant would be turned directly over to the municipal authority if that still exists,
This is about.
or the township? It is what it's about. Listen. When you're up there to testify, I'll ask you the same questions and we can have that conversation. But I'm asking Ms. Duffield, do you understand that that is what the intent is that the applicant's going to turn that over to the township?
Is that
or
stated
the
in the
municipal
letter
authority?
that
That was the
provided?
application, that's what the application's based
Is
on.
that stated in the letter that was posted?
That is what's based, that's why it's a special exception, is because it has to be a public, essentially a public use or a public utility.
Solicitor DeFelice, I think this is a legal argument, and
I don't
we
understand.
intend to
Doug,
make
Doug,
it.
Doug,
when-
They
Just let me
testified.
finish.
My question is,
When
does she
this
know that
matter
that's what their
opened-
intent is?
When this matter opened in 2023, we had,
There was no authority.
just be quiet. I'd have to look at the record for a moment, but it was 6 or 8 months of
Okay.
continued postponement.
Okay.
Why was that? That was because the authority wasn't in existence at that point.
Since the hearing has started, I'm talking about that time period, because that's what we're dealing with.
Well, that's what I'm
That's what the
saying.
board
That's
is
a legal
considering.
issue.
That's why it's important. The
The-
board is considering this in light of the fact that the intent is that this be turned over to the municipal authority or township.
That's what our application is.
That's what the
That-
testimony was. Does the township dispute that,
That
Adrian?
became, I think,
I don't
relevant.
dispute that's the
Okay, the township doesn't even dispute it, but Doug Blasey wants to dispute it, Ms. Duffield wants to dispute it, and I don't even know your names in
Don't
the
put
back that
words
you
in
want to
my mouth.
dispute this.
I'm not disputing.
I don't understand.
I'm not disputing.
No one here is disputing that the intent is that this be turned over to the township.
At the moment, that's,
Chad, please, I say this nicely.
Okay.
You're falling for a filibuster.
no,
This is delay after delay after delay.
this is not a delay.
All right,
Yes,
all right.
it is.
Will you accept the fact that the township's attorney acknowledges that the intent is for this specific application, that the entire sewage treatment plant be turned over to the township at or when it's operational?
Mr. D.
That- yes.
Okay, then you won't,
Yes,
then you
yes
dispute
or
that.
no, just-
Then you dispute that. Then now you dispute that. That's what's in his application, that's what's been testified to. You dispute that all you want, okay? That's fine.
You don't want it, you don't want it.
It's not that I don't want it, that's the notice.
There's nothing on there.
Enough. There's a chain of command here. We're gonna
Mr. Anufrak, you have an attorney, you should speak with him about this. But that is the intent, that is what the application has been from the day one. I'm misrepresenting what he testified to? You're telling me that I misrepresented what he testified
No, you're
to?
misrepresenting what the zoning officer's letter says.
It's his first special exception.
Read the whole thing.
Read it. Appropriate public uses on the land. Public
Read the whole
uses.
thing, Mr. DeFelice.
What do you want me to read?
What is the difference?
Appropriate public and essential uses. What are you
Wait a
saying?
minute,
What
wait a
does it say
minute.
right
Get
there?
him to sit down.
The applicant is proposing sewage disposal for both properties in connection with the development of a planned industrial park.
Okay, what does it say right there? Go back there and read that with your attorney, please. Please, I don't want this, this shouldn't be on the record, but please,
Can we
please.
have the next witness, please?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think it's best. Go ahead.
My point only, and it would be a legal argument.
Objection to what
I
his
am not-
point is. Bring on the next witness.
That's fine with me.
No,
but
go ahead, Tony. Say what you want to say.
that there was a transition of institutions and dates in this process. So the witness was trying to be as accurate as I think she could, but that will be legal argument, who said what to when.
No, I don't think it's
Right
legal
now,
argument.
For example, as I understand it, the township has sought to dissolve the municipal authority. So what this may be based on may disappear.
It says of public use, though. And my understanding, when the township dissolved the authority, that the township took over any contracts, any projects, anything like that. So when this started, that was in existence. And the ordinance says public use or public or essential use. So in my opinion, I think that would cover both, would cover whether the authority owned it or the township
I
owned it.
think that's a legal argument.
Okay, well then make that legal argument. Make that legal argument. That's
And to
fine.
be clear, the township does not agree that we would take over.
That's fine. You had a resolution that said that. I don't know what agreements were in effect. I have no idea what the heck was in effect. All I'm saying is when this application started, from a time frame standpoint, when this application started, there was an authority. After this application started, apparently it was dissolved.
No, it was not.
Whatever. They're saying it was dissolved. I don't know.
This is
That's
more,
litigation.
this is more irrelevancy.
All I'm saying, my only question to her was, does she understand that the applicant's testimony and the applicant's intent with respect to this application is either to turn it over to the authority or any other public use, whether it be the township or whatever? That was my question.
If that was your question to her, she can.
Well, then I can answer that. In the beginning, sir, no, there was nothing that I knew about that. As if you're talking about this point in time today, I'm aware that there's litigation. I'm aware that there's an attempt to dissolve, but I'm also aware that in December of 23, Mr. Pinter and the board put through that municipal authority. So that I'm aware of.
Let me ask this a little more specifically. In February, when this started, you were here, right?
Yes.
The very first, do you recall the testimony from the applicant at that very first hearing that it was his intent either to turn it over to the township or to the...
I do remember the initial conversation as to whether we should even go forward.
No, it wasn't a
with
conversation, it was
this.
testimony. You remember when the...
Sorry,
Testimony.
testimony.
Okay.
Again, I'm just a regular person.
Okay. Go ahead, Doug.
I have no further questions. Does anyone else of my witness?
I have one brief comment.
No comments.
It's a question. She was referring, the witness was referring to 50 properties, and this list was about 1,000 properties. The 50, I'm clarifying. The little pencil line, the little pencil line
Yes,
are the 50 relevant properties.
yes, correct, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
Can I ask a question of the witness?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Sharon, come back. Sorry. Technically, Mr. Tripoli's party status, so he can ask you a question. No, it's Mr. Tripoli's witness.
No, I just had a question on basis. Do I have to be sworn?
No, you have party status. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, but.
Sharon Duffield.
Sharon, you were talking about houses in your neighborhood went up for sale. There was a lot of chatter going back and forth, and but there were a lot of houses up for sale.
Correct.
Well, I was just thinking, there's a billboard on 611, I don't know if it's still there, that says, "Now is the time to sell." And I was just wondering if that was relating to that.
Was that a question? Was that a question?
That's a question.
What was the question? You're asking if Mr. You're asking if Mr.
There's a billboard on 611 saying, "Now is the time to sell."
Russ's billboard. Well, you're pointing at him and looking at him, so let's just make it clear. So the question specifically was Mr. Horn's billboard that's on 611 related to Ms. Duffield's comment? I don't know.
I can't speak to that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I do not know. I just know that the number of folks leaving has grown.
It's all a conspiracy.
Is there any, before you get up, anything else?
No, go ahead, please.
Before you get up?
No, I want to limit the number of times that we can bring zoning board members into this conversation.
Angle has a
Oh,
question.
Mr. Angle has a question, I'm sorry.
No, please.
Now you're all on the same page with Mr. Angle.
Simple question.
Turn your
I
mic
think
on.
the speaker's on now.
Microphone. Is there a switch? Is there a switch?
Testing 1, 2.
Better, I'll talk loud. Just curious, I think the gentleman up there asked the same question. This list here lists properties as far as North Bangor, the land and property. What's the relevancy of this being introduced?
It is a complete list of all properties sold in Mount Bethel from 2019 to present. As I stated before, and I'll state again, I marked off only the properties in that immediate area of about a mile and a quarter from where that drip field is.
Ron, that's my objection. There's no relevance to it. Let her
All
go,
right,
please.
Can I just ask just one follow-up question? Did you give this document to Mr. Storley?
No,
Okay.
that's mine.
Anything further?
The print date is on it on the bottom, it's recent.
Raise your right hand, please. You do solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Before you start, I'm gonna do the same thing we did with Ms. Duffield. This would be I-31.
Same objection.
What do we? I certainly don't want this.
Yes, you did.
Which one was that?
Ms. Anafrak, would you please identify yourself and where you live, and then we'll proceed to ask you some questions.
Regina Anufrak, 43 Summerfield Drive. My property butts the farm. We're probably one of the closest.
And can you tell us when you first came to town and why you came to town?
For well over a year, my husband and I were looking for a home in Pennsylvania, in this general area, all the way up to Swiftwater. And when we couldn't find the home that we were looking for, we decided to go to LTS and build a home. They showed us these properties, and of the properties, this is the one that since it's actually my husband's home, it was built before we were married. This is the property that he decided was perfect.
What time, what year was that he built it?
We closed in 2011. We came up summers, well, myself came up for summers with my daughter and my granddaughter, and we moved here permanently in 2014 after my husband retired.
And can you, I think you said it, but maybe give a little further description. Do you immediately abut the proposed drip irrigation field or the Angle Farm? How would you describe where your property is in relation to the Angle Farm and the proposed field?
Southwest of where the drip field is. Our backyard is the farm. There's rocks and there's the farm.
And can you You have a stream on your property?
Yes, we do.
And I'm going to see if I can. That's the small picture.
Can you have somebody else hand this out and stop wasting our time?
Mark, come on.
I apologize for the color of the photos, but I had to print them out from home today myself, because I took the picture today.
Yeah, I know. So 32, I think, right?
I think that would be marked, what, I? 32. Could you describe where this stream is on your property and what the source or origin is to your knowledge?
The stream is on the west side of our property. It runs from the farm through the west side, goes under the roadway, and goes out into one of the tributaries, and then eventually the Delaware.
And when
is
did
what I
you,
was told.
who took this picture and when did you take it?
I took this picture this afternoon.
And what does it show to you?
To me, it shows, recently we had a lot of rain, and my husband has testified and showed you all a video of how the water gathers in the stream. And recently, we went through that again, overnight this past Sunday. And my husband and I were going out, and as we were driving, I was looking down at the stream, and I said, oh my God, look, those two trees over there, the roots are now being exposed, which to me means that with this constantly going on, those trees are going to fall over, and that area, it's expanding. The stream is getting wider and deeper because of all the water that comes rolling down the hill from the farm.
And what is your concern if the project goes forward that might happen to this stream?
Well, I'm afraid that the trees are going to start crumbling down. We've had enough of that with just the backyard trees falling when we have excessive rain.
I'm sorry, I missed that. The backyard, what?
Not just by the stream, but also our backyard. We've had experiences with a lot of rain, trees coming down in the yard. Because there's a lot of wetlands in the back, to the west.
Can you tell us where your home was before you came to this location?
I lived in East Yaphank, Long Island.
And did you have any experience there that, with land contamination or water contamination that,
Yes, I did.
and what was that?
In the late 80s, early 90s, we lived about 5 or 6, well, I didn't really know Mike at this time, my husband. We lived about 5 or 6 miles from the Brookhaven National Lab. Some of you may know about it. It's a lab run by the government. They have scientists in there. It's about 5,000 acres of property. They do all kinds of testing, nuclear, chemicals, and one day a Suffolk County Water Authority came knocking at my door, asking me if I wanted to connect to the water. They were trying to get as many people as they could to sign up to get hooked up so they could give us a cheaper rate. The following day, the local civic association, somebody stopped by with They had a handout and they said, we're having a meeting, there's a problem in the area. They found wells were tested like 5 blocks away, 6 blocks away from me, and they found contaminated wells. So my friend and I, we went to this meeting and we found out that there was tritanium found in the wells as well as chemicals. So they were putting, the government was paying to put water in those homes in that area.
And this was from the lab that you said, or whatever?
Brookhaven
test-
Lab,
How do you spell, what was the name of that again? B?
Brookhaven,
Oh, Brookhaven. Okay.
Brookhaven. So we, the rest of us, my friend and I went walking door to door to get a petition, which we did. It was presented back to the Civic Association and they got it to some government official and they wound up putting public water in for free for every one of us.
And in what way do you see your Brookhaven National Laboratory experience as being relevant to your concerns for this property?
Well, Mr. Ebert said he's putting in the system, and he's putting in, they're gonna have protocols and alarms. Brookhaven Lab had the highest of protocols and alarms. Alarms were bypassed, and the accident happened. I don't wanna go through it again.
Now, would you, and I'll only say to the board, I've asked the witness this beforehand, and she has been willing to share it, so I'm not doing this for the first time. But would you share some of your health issues and why that's a particular concern to you at this property where you live now?
I have cystic fibrosis. It's, my 2 mutations are treatable but not curable. I don't know if you know what cystic fibrosis is. It's your body causes an overaccumulation of mucus and it clogs your lungs. I'm on a very expensive drug called Trikafta. I do multiple nebulizer treatments a day. I use a compression vest. They pound your chest to help you get the mucus out. I also am a cancer survivor. Incidentally, Sharon was talking about her husband with cancer. I requested the Northampton Health Department to do a cancer cluster study because it's not just myself and Sharon's husband. There are 6 other people that we know of that surrounding that farm that have cancer. And that was at the request of my medical oncologist. But I'm concerned that should things go wrong, as Mr. Ebert said, an accident can happen. He can't guarantee that it won't.
Have you had a past experience with this property that caused you a health concern?
Yes, when the previous owner
Objection.
applied sludge, I
What's the
wound up in the
objection? What's the
hospital.
objection?
Just stop a moment.
What's the relevance of what took place some time before we are here?
Was it a
Because-
drip irrigation?
because that-
But was it a drip irrigation field?
No, but it was.
But the relevance is, the moment I heard that this was gonna happen, I didn't sleep for weeks on end. It caused such anxiety and worry. I mean, it doesn't matter to them. They don't have to live there with this disease.
So I just wanted her to share what the previous experience was. We're not saying it's identical or it would be repeated, but it is what generates concern. If you don't think it's relevant, we'll.
I just don't see how it is.
Okay.
I mean, if it's not a drip irrigation, I don't see how. I mean, I know,
Can you, have your doctors shared anything with you with regard to what needs to be avoided or what types of exposure would create new risks for you?
I'm going to object again.
we talked about this at I think one of the first meetings. That, in Ms. Onufek, I remember we sat there, we talked about that the doctor, I mean, I guess she can testify about things she's supposed to avoid.
Yes.
I have this objection. Mr. Blasey put a professor on the stand. The testimony, written and oral, was that this type of system is not injurious to health, safety, and welfare. It's regulated by DEP. That's their testimony. I don't see how you bring a witness on now to contradict that.
Yeah, how do you get the causation here? I mean, if you had an expert to come in that said that this type of system or that you know could cause health issues, that's one thing.
None of the
I mean, no one's
technical
linked this.
experts, the technical experts suggest, one, the geologic expert suggested there were failures in the design of this system and testified to that.
Okay.
Dr. Elliott was saying these systems are used primarily for sewage, sanitary wastewater treatment, and can be done successfully.
Okay.
It's the risk associated with an error in the process, and all I'm offering this witness for is that the neighbors, who I believe the board represents the community, have a concern with the ultimate security of the system.
I guess here's my question.
And
What
I
expert
just want
has
the board to hear it.
What expert has testified that there is a link between the drip irrigation system and that there being health concerns, or there being health risks to people?
The letter that is
'Cause I think
attached,
you need an expert to testify to that, I do. You
the letter
disagree,
that
I-
is attached, and you
Oh,
would have to
come
bring,
on,
and we're not gonna
Doug.
bring them in, is trying to express what she needs to avoid. So to the extent
But,
this
okay,
board-
so who has testified that the drip irrigation system would cause things to arise that she should avoid? Who has testified to that?
Well, I think that, if I.
No, no.
If I,
No.
if I.
Go ahead, let me hear your argument on this.
We haven't heard the testimony yet. And
It's
so-
hearsay.
Okay, and I
I
agree.
assume it's from a doctor, I don't know, I mean, I
agree
assume,
with
right?
you that a doctor's
Mhm.
statement would be hearsay. However, if the witness.
Why is?
He's allowed to make an argument, legal argument, go ahead.
The witness is testifying about things that she is medically supposed to avoid.
That's
We're not saying that there's a causation here.
But that's what the point of her testimony
Okay,
is.
but no, let me finish. If she's to testify about what she can avoid, the board can infer from what testimony they've heard whether or not that's possible or not. And that's all I'm saying.
But-
I'm not asking her to offer an opinion, but if she could testify about what she medically should avoid, I think that is a permissible.
That's exactly.
Right. But my issue is that she's saying that the drip irrigation field will cause these issues.
That's her concern. She is not
That's
an
her
expert.
concern.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
but-
think the
but
board
how-
can distinguish
No,
those.
she didn't say that. She
Okay,
said,
okay, she didn't say that, go ahead.
Brookhaven National Lab, a big mistake occurs. A lot of mistakes occur over time. That's what she is saying in different places, and many of them are unexpected. So she needs to avoid the unexpected occurrence. And I simply want this board to be aware of what some of the needs of the citizens in the area are. And frankly, I think I want the township to be aware, if this matter proceeds, the board approves it, that there's gonna be a very hotly contested, or could be very hotly contested PADEP process to make sure this system is as foolproof as we know how to make it, because it's not that way
And
now, in my opinion.
why
So I
is she
simply want it on
making
the
this
record that it's a
speech?
matter of concern to this citizen of this township, that this system be perfect, and it not flood the neighborhood, which it seems, the property seems to be doing, and not have other side effects that are unknown. That's it.
For the neighborhood,
Okay, we heard it.
So
I don't know.
I just want that on the record.
Okay, it's on there.
Isn't that her testimony? Didn't you just state what her testimony is?
I thought I was, but you were interrupting her constantly.
Well,
So let her
you
finish.
made the statement. It's in the record. Can we move on to the
Okay,
next
I'm fine
witness?
then. Excuse me. no further questions for this witness.
I hope this board considers the health, safety, and welfare of the residents.
Stay here, stay here. Maybe you
Oh.
have a question.
I have no questions.
See if anyone else does.
Adrian?
Well, I mean, did you rule that she couldn't testify about the things that she was to avoid?
Did he not say what, did Doug not say what she was?
I mean, I don't know what, I mean, Doug.
Ask,
I would
ask,
like
ask
her
the
to-
question.
Yeah.
What thing, what,
Medically,
what,
what
yeah,
things
yeah,
are
what
you,
things are you supposed to avoid? And we're talking about the cystic fibrosis issue, right?
Mhm.
Okay, just specify that.
After discussion with my doctor,
I'm going to object.
We have
She's
concerns.
already testified what her concerns were. We've heard it
Okay, so she
over
is
I'm
and
concerned
over.
about
What she should avoid, and this
She
is.
said what the
bacteria
doctor
and
said.
mold spores, they get airborne. That's what we're concerned about.
You said mold spores?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't, okay.
Think that was going to get airborne, if I heard that right.
That's correct.
And there's absolutely no testimony from anybody.
Don't start
about
testifying
that.
over here. Okay, anything else, Adrian?
No.
Mr. Tripoli, anybody else has party status? Mr. Engel? Nothing? Nobody? Board? Okay. I think that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I move those exhibits. And into, hers would be I-20, or
I object to them. It's just
Fine.
all full of hearsay.
Are you,
Both her statement, if she wrote it, and this thing from the doctor, it's all hearsay.
it may be.
well, I mean,
but
her
this
entire
board can-
statement isn't hearsay.
What?
Her entire statement's not hearsay.
That's not.
No, what she testified to is all that we heard. There are,
You had, she could give this, you had an opportunity to question her about this.
no, she has to testify.
She did testify, and
But she
gave this.
didn't testify about all of these things.
Well, then why did you ask her about any of those things?
Why do I have to?
I'm not saying you did,
I'll get up and say
but
it.
I'm saying that doesn't make it inadmissible. I agree with you about the hearsay as far as if there's anything in here about what anybody else said.
It's just loaded with it. Do what you will. I
I
don't
mean-
want to eat up any more time.
All right, here, Mr. Blasey, as far as the other exhibits, you're not really trying to introduce 29, are you?
I was for the date. I don't need it for any
All
other
right,
purpose.
let's not introduce that one at the request of the township, okay?
Well, then, but could there then be an agreement that at least there was a discussion in the township?
I think the township's gonna present a witness. I don't know if he can testify about when.
I mean, I don't
It was
know
discussed
if
on
that
this
was gonna be
property.
the subject of any of the township's witnesses. I think that the witness established when
She heard
knowledge
it, yeah,
about
she heard it.
a drip field, and so I think,
She testified that she recalls a meeting in 2019 at some point about the drip field being discussed with the township.
And this one was formally as of March of 2021.
Right.
So if that would be part of the record,
What would
then
be
we
part
can
of the
strike
record?
that date was, that this project was publicly announced and discussed in the township, so that,
I don't know if it was publicly, and I don't know if this document establishes that it was publicly announced. I mean, her testimony was that in 2019, there was a public meeting in which this drip irrigation field was discussed,
okay.
right?
Yes, and I think she also
Ms. Duffield, I didn't-
testified to this.
I'm sorry,
Was that accurate? I mean, we can go back and look at the transcript. Your testimony was that in 2019, there was a township meeting where the
My
drip field.
testimony was that we were told in 2020 that there was a
2020.
drip field that was going across Potomac
Okay,
for disposal.
2020, there you go.
We'll strike then.
When it was discussed, it doesn't.
You have Valentine's testimony about when he started to do testing. We didn't know whether
So
this
what do you
worked
object
or
to
not.
what she says? If she's wrong, she's wrong. We'll go back and look at his.
I agree.
All right. You,
hey,
I think Doug, you're done, right? You don't have any other
Yes,
witnesses?
I'm done.
Okay. You wanna take a 5-minute break?
yeah.
I can use the rest.
So as I understand it, we are not doing closings at the moment.
No,
And I'm not putting on an opening either,
No.
although there was some. I do want to bring,
No, just so you understand, my plan is, we'll get through Mr. Birmingham, we'll get through any party, any individual with party status, we'll get through any people here that have public comment, and then we'll wrap it up another day.
okay.
Everything, you'll have an opportunity to,
There's some-
you'll have an opportunity to submit the, Mark, I said this. I'm surprised this is only 2 more meetings. I am shocked that we are going to get done next meeting, I am honestly shocked.
I still had hoped that we'd do tonight, like
Mark,
another hour and a half.
What are we gonna deliberate? We're gonna deliberate at 9:45?
I don't think it'll take the board very long.
What, you're not even public comment?
Let's see, let's see.
Go ahead.
Okay, so there are some sections of the ordinance I'd like to refer to.
Okay.
And if you want me to do it now or do it later, I'm, you know, whatever
Let's
your preference.
do it during closing if that's what you wanna do. It's part of the
Okay.
bargain.
Sorry, mine? You're having trouble hearing me? I don't know. Is that better? All right, sorry. Okay, all right, so then I'll call Mr. John Birmingham, please. Wait, I thought you left.
You do solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thanks.
Mr. Birmingham, could you identify yourself and where you currently live?
Yes, my name is John Birmingham. I live at 46 Red Fox Lane, Mount Bethel, Pennsylvania, 18343.
And you currently hold a position on the Upper Mount Bethel Township Board of Supervisors?
That is correct.
And what's that position?
Chairman of Board of Supervisors.
And when did you become chairman?
So I first took office in 2016. I was chairman for 4 years during my first term. I was reelected in 2015, and then I became chairman again the beginning of this year.
Okay. And as the chairman of the Board of Supervisors, has the issue of this particular special exception hearing been a matter of concern for the board?
Yes, absolutely.
And could you tell us more, what are the concerns of the board and why are we here?
You know, we're concerned because this directly impacts the welfare, health, safety of our residents. And as an elected official, it's my job to talk to the people, find out their concerns, and make sure that their health and safety is protected.
And I'm not asking you about what the people said to you, because that's been an issue before. But you've attended some of these hearings, the special exceptions hearings, correct?
Correct.
And the ones that you haven't attended, have you watched the live feed or the video that came after?
I have, and thank you, Chris Cowley, for doing that.
So has the testimony that you've heard during these hearings from either the experts and the lay witnesses we've heard from raised any concerns that you and the board are want addressed?
Yeah, I mean, we're concerned about the wells. We're concerned, well, the residents' wells. We're concerned about the testing being done. Is it only gonna be the bare minimum testing? Doesn't have to be. It shouldn't be.
Just to clarify, with testing, which testing are we talking about? Post-project completion or pre-project?
That's an excellent question. So, Mr. Birmingham, you heard Professor Elliott's testimony about the testing, correct?
Yes,
And you also heard testimony from the applicant's witnesses about the testing that has been done, correct?
yes.
And so is the board's concern that not enough testing has been conducted?
Objection,
Yeah.
leading, the question's leading.
I mean, that's what you said.
Mark,
Go ahead.
Mark, you asked a million leading questions during your direct, so, I mean, anyway, go ahead.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And was there some testimony from any of the experts that you thought would be beneficial for certain kinds of testing to be performed? And I think you mentioned wells before, right?
Yeah, I mean, we want the wells tested, there's no doubt about it. I want the wells tested before, and if this drip irrigation system comes in, I want it tested during. I want to compare, I want to see if the wells, if it changes, you know, the wells change in terms of after this drip irrigation system, if it comes in, the wells have gotten worse.
I just want to make sure I know that the record's clear. Are we talking about the site wells, or are we talking about the individual residence wells?
That's a good question, Council, and I believe that Professor Elliott talked about testing in individual properties surrounding the proposed drip irrigation system for testing,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
And I believe he also talked about testing in additional sites on the actual proposed drip irrigation system.
Correct.
And is that something that the board is looking for this zoning hearing board to require as a condition of any approvals that may come?
Without a
I
doubt.
object. Adrian's testifying. He's testifying.
Do you just want him to submit the list of conditions that the township would want in writing?
No, I want Mr. Birmingham to testify. Not Adrian to testify and Mr. Birmingham to say yes or no.
Is this only because, you're only doing this now because I said we were gonna come back next week? Are you sure? All right, you're using this time now. Now you're gonna use the whole time, right?
Filibustering?
Go ahead.
I mean, I will, if Adrian says something that I disagree with, I will obviously let him know.
Understood.
Okay, so what kind of testing is the board looking for the applicant or anybody else to perform in and around this particular drip irrigation?
More than the baseline testing. I mean, I don't want the minimum. I don't want the minimum testing to be the standard. I want to go above and beyond that. And like the heavy metals. I mean, that's a big concern.
Okay. And the testimony you heard from the applicant's experts, did they talk about some of the things that were not tested for? I think you mentioned heavy metals, correct?
Correct.
And so that's not tested for,
Right.
according to their testimony,
Right.
correct? And we don't, is it the board's concern that we don't know what's in the soil currently
Yeah.
that is not being tested for?
Yeah, exactly.
And the board is looking to have that baseline established for Mr. Elliott's testimony.
Yeah, and RPL hasn't committed to that, and that's the concerning part. I mean, you hear the residents who have gotten up here and spoken about their health concerns. They're not the only ones who live on Potomac Street. You know, think about the children who live on Potomac Street who are not here to testify.
In this process, that has the Board of Supervisors been involved with RPL? And is there enough transparency that has come from the applicant for the board's?
In my opinion, no.
And what kinds of things have they not been transparent in the application process?
Just how they're going about it, what's coming in. We have no idea. We don't know what we should actually be testing for because they haven't been transparent in that sense. You know, another concern is, are there other suitable properties in the township where this drip irrigation system could go, right? Why does it have to go into a residential part of town? Why can't it go into an industrial part of town? And if they know why or why not there aren't other suitable places to put this drip irrigation system, what is the reason behind that? They haven't told us anything. We don't know. You know, they have 800 acres of property. 800 acres. A drip irrigation system is going to be about 25 acres. So you're telling me that you can't find 25 acres
Objection.
on 800 acres of property where that drip irrigation system could go?
That's way beyond the scope of our application.
It is.
Well, I understand it's beyond the scope of the application, but I think the question was to whether or not there was transparency as to why those areas, and I think that, and
Are we talking about beyond what was testified to
Correct.
The experts?
It was very clear, as
By-
soon as we talked about any testing, and the testimony was clear that there was testing done on the industrial zone as well for the soils. But that was shut down pretty quickly, and I understand that's not before this board. But the question to Mr. Birmingham is, why was the selection made in the way it was? And the fact that it wasn't presented, why that selection on that particular property was done, is something that is not transparent to the board or the residents of the community.
What's
understand it
it got
doesn't-
to do with our application?
I understand by the letter of the law, but we're talking about transparency to the citizens of why, when there's
Take it to the
a section.
political, take it to the political part of the township. Take it to the Board of Supervisors. Every time we've gotten up to talk, this man has shut either Mr. Pecker down or me.
But I
This
don't-
is
I don't-
not,
I don't
this
wanna-
is not
please,
the place
Please,
for-
please, I don't want to get into this.
Mark,
Well,
all we're asking
I
is
don't-
for you to tell us why you're choosing this property and not other pieces within the
I
town.
mean, we've made presentation after
You
presentation.
haven't, you
That's
haven't.
fair. Look, this is a hearing about this property. Can we keep the testimony to that?
No, I agree.
I mean,
I think
to
the
the
point's
extent,
been made.
I mean, there's certainly been testimony at this hearing, not today, obviously, that other sites were tested, both on the industrial site and on the Pecker site.
Correct.
And I think, I mean, that was clearly relayed to the township,
I
right?
think they're all Pecker sites, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, right. The Angle Farm, I'm sorry, the Angle Farm. But I mean, that was clearly relayed to the township, right? There's no dispute about that. Everything that was in their reports and their application, that was clearly relayed, right? There's no dispute about that, Mr. Berman?
I'm sorry, say.
There's no dispute that everything that they testified to and that was in their reports, at least with respect to this hearing that the township had, that you had that information?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'll move on from that. So, there's been testimony about the safety and the protocols and the backups and the pumps and those kind of things. Having heard that testimony and from Mr. Ebert and his presentation about how wonderful this system is going to be, did the board have any additional concerns about that particular safety of the system?
Yeah, I mean, we're concerned about what could happen down the road. You know, right now, we're relying on systems, we're relying on procedures that RPL is not gonna have anything to do with in a decade from now, right? I mean, once these guys get the system in, once they get the park up and running, we're never gonna see Mr. Kaplan again. We're never gonna see Mr. Pector, we're never gonna see RPL, but we're gonna have to live with it. The people on Potomac Street are gonna have to live with it. And you hear the homes selling right now. What about the people who can't move? The people who have to stay there?
Objection. This is just a political speech.
It's not a political speech, it's what I'm doing. I mean, you get a politician up here, you know, I gotta talk to you about my job and how it's affected by this.
Yeah, but we're at a hearing, we're at a legal hearing. It's gotta be based on actual facts that have been produced, or expert opinions that have been produced at this hearing. And that's my concern, that was my concern with the previous witness, that we have all of these opinions that are not based on facts that have been introduced in evidence at this hearing. And that's just the legal process, I can't do anything about that. So, I understand,
I'll move on. I think
Okay.
the testimony is what the testimony is. Let me ask you this. Has the board aware that whether or not the process for the special exceptions has been followed appropriately?
No, it hasn't. That they haven't, you know, if you look at the certain ordinances, you know, some have to go to the planning commission.
And has the township engineer been involved in some of the planning for this particular project?
Yes.
And have I marked any exhibits? I don't think so. might have done early on, I think maybe on.
I don't
There
remember.
was some township.
I-
No, that's all right, I'll
I
just.
feel like you had one. I don't
Right.
remember what it is, but I feel like you had one.
Just say
What were the-
township, except I'll make sure when.
It's the
Okay.
next.
Do it, that
Okay.
if we're
Township exhibit,
in order.
And we can clean it up at the next hearing then, because I'm gonna ask that everybody at least just give me a list of the exhibits, the you know, whatever it's, yeah.
Birmingham, I put in front of you an exhibit that's marked as township exhibit, fill in the blank. This document is dated November 15th, 2023. The title on it is from Carroll Engineering Corporation. Carroll Engineering, Justin Coyle is the township engineer, correct?
Correct.
And have you seen this document before?
I have.
And this document is addressed to Fred Ebert who's testified before this board, correct?
Right.
And do you have an understanding of this document being part of the process of the township engineer's review?
Yes.
And during the time that prior to the application to this board, were some of the items that the township engineer recommended addressed by the applicant?
No,
Well, some of them were, right?
not all of them.
Not all of them. So, in particular, were there, let me look at page 6 of this document, for instance. And this is just an example. And it's under the section that says, new comments. And there seem to be, page 6, yes. So for instance,
Hey, what number are you on?
I'm on page 6, number 17, for instance, and there are a number of different ones here. I'm just picking out an example. Number 17 states, the narrative states that the wastewater treatment plant, which is abbreviated as WWTP, will provide denitrification of the treated effluent at a level of 10 mg/L of total nitrogen. And it says, what is the basis of this determination without a Part 1 NPDES permit? You see that?
Yeah, I do.
Now, you've had discussions with the engineer and seen the documentation that's come back, and I'm not asking you to tell us what the engineer
Can we
said.
get a question?
I'm asking a question, Mark.
No, you're making a speech again.
But I think he's providing background to get to
Okay.
the question.
All right, well, to your knowledge, has this particular item been addressed by the applicant to the township engineer?
No.
Okay. And are there other items that the township engineer has recommended that have not been addressed to your knowledge?
Yes.
And is one of those recommendations submission to the planning commission?
Yeah, and it never was followed up on.
Okay.
I mean, the whole compliance process has not been followed.
And I'll just note for the record, just at this point, because it is relevant, that the ordinance, which has been referred to by council, and I think he marked it as an exhibit, so I won't do it again. He talked about section 4.202, which is special exceptions uses, and council talked about some of the last paragraphs, but in the very first paragraph of that particular section of the ordinance, talks about such special exception uses shall be referred to the planning commission by the board for review and recommendation, and such uses may be permitted only upon authorization by the board, subject to certain conditions and safeguards as provided in this section and after a hearing. This isn't a question for the witness, but it very clearly says shall.
Is there any dispute that you did not go to planning commission?
This application was submitted to the township, it was before the township for a year. The planning module that's in here was reviewed by the planning commission and by the township engineer.
was, did you take this to planning commission? Whether they took action or not, I think,
My understanding is this was not referred to the planning commission.
what do you mean referred? What does that mean? Who would refer it? It's
Shall
either you
we-
apply,
well, it's-
well, if you
it's-
apply it, the township would take the effect of, hey, you gotta go to planning.
And I believe this should come from the board to refer it to the planning commission, this board.
The planning,
I've never heard of a zoning board referring something to a planning commission.
Okay. It's our understanding
Can
that
I-
this was not, I'm sorry.
Yeah, can I just see that copy?
this was, there is a
Just ask him a
zoning
question.
officer's decision on this. There is a zoning officer's decision that this is permitted by special.
It doesn't say that the board's supposed to refer them to the planning commission.
It says,
Such special
shall be
exception,
referred to the commission by the board, or review. It says by the board.
What board?
board of supervisors, board of, I don't know if it's zoning,
Zoning board?
I don't know why the zoning hearing board would refer. What, so the zoning.
Because this is part of the special exception process, as we understand it. And whether the zoning officer reviewed it or not is immaterial to whether the planning commission has reviewed this application and commented.
It's not,
There's
it's not
no
material.
testimony here. What's going on?
I'm just going by the what the plain letter of that what that ordinance says. Such special exception use shall refer to the planning commission by the board for review and recommendation. That's what it says.
Doesn't say by the applicant, does it?
No, I didn't say,
That's my
I'm
point.
trying to establish what board, because typically what happens if something has to go into a planning commission, typically what happens is it comes in, zoning officer or somebody at the township looks at it and says, hey, this has got to go to planning commission, schedule it with planning. It's typically what happens. Okay,
And it's our position it hasn't been in front of the planning commission program.
okay. When's the next planning commission meeting?
It was supposed to be, I think, yesterday, and it got canceled. So I think next month, maybe?
Okay. You have a copy of that, Mark?
What?
That ordinance?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark.
Well,
Yeah.
I just wanted to see it.
I mean, he marked it previously.
Where they've been for a year while this application is due.
Do you want to not go to the planning and then it get overturned on something like that?
I'm sorry, whoa, what did you say?
I said, does he not want us to refer it to the planning commission? That what he's, you would, I mean,
Why it was referred to the planning commission by whoever.
Was
We've been before the planning commission, we have 13 approved plans, and in each one, they've said it's conditioned upon our getting approval of our planning module, and part of the planning module says that we've got to get this special exception. The planning commission has known about this forever.
But the correct process wasn't followed. You know, whether they knew about it or not is one thing, but whether the process is followed is another.
John, then you take an appeal,
You gotta follow the process.
then you take an appeal.
all right, you have anything else?
Yeah, I have a couple more questions.
Okay.
Let me just see. You discussed some of the concerns that the board has and some of the initial things that they would require, or request that this board put as additional conditions. Any other concerns that the board has about the process that we've gone through for the special exceptions?
In terms, or do you mean like in terms of
Objection,
ordinance?
either he's got an answer or he doesn't have it.
I don't understand the question.
That's
Yes,
the
okay,
answer.
and I'm not asking about ordinance, I'm talking about the process in front of this board. Have there been any other concerns that the board has about the manner and way this has been presented to this zoning hearing board?
Yeah, I think the lack of transparency, I think not following what the ordinance says, I think all that's a big concern.
Can I just ask, is there any dispute that this has been before planning commission before?
Yeah, I don't think it has been.
It's never been before?
He doesn't
No.
know.
No, as the correct throughout
No,
the
no, no, my
time?
question, has this ever been before the planning commission?
Does he know?
Not after the zoning board, not after the hearing, not after our hearing has started, but has this ever in the past, since last year when the application was filed?
Yeah, there's been certain things that have gone in front of the planning commission.
Specifically the drip irrigation field and the sewage treatment plant?
I can't say yes or no for sure.
Do you know that?
It's our belief that
Wait a
the
minute, you
application is
have
not.
no personal knowledge, you
Okay,
haven't
then-
been there.
I mean, I
Your
don't,
belief is no, I mean, has it been?
Yes,
When?
I can't tell
Okay.
you off the top of
he
my head.
doesn't know. He doesn't know either.
It was,
The correct process hasn't been followed.
All right.
Obviously, we both know that, because neither one of us can say for sure.
Just a clarification, when you say as this, you mean this matter?
The drip irrigation on the Angle property,
But this zoning board hearings, special exception, has that ever been to the planning commission?
well,
Is
I
that what-
think more generally speaking, my question was, has the project with the drip irrigation field going on the Angle property ever been before the planning commission?
the answer to that is absolutely yes on
Okay.
multiple occasions.
Okay.
And it's our position that the entire application as being presented to the board, I'm not saying special exceptions has to be presented to the planning commission, but the entire module has not been presented. That is our understanding from, and I'm not gonna say what source of that is, because it would be obviously hearsay. We can call the engineer to talk
Okay.
about that, because he has the most knowledge.
Well, I mean, I know for a fact that this board, if the board in section 4.202, if that's what the board, if that's the board they're referring to, this board certainly hasn't referred it to the planning commission. I mean, that's just accurate.
I'm sorry, what?
That's accurate.
I think that if you go and you look in the definitions,
Well, that's what I was gonna
the
do.
definitions is the board of supervisors.
He doesn't know for sure.
Well, but you're the one saying that it's the board of, the zoning board, right? You don't know for sure either?
It just says the board.
So do you know if it's the board of supervisors or the board of zoning hearing board?
I would think it would say board of supervisors, but if it was the supervisors,
So is
but
it no? You don't know for sure?
I don't know.
Okay, so then nobody knows for sure. Let's
None
get
of
to the
us
bottom of
know,
that.
yeah.
Can we take 5 minutes to get to the bottom of that? I want to know that because I think it's important. 5 minutes, I want to see the old ordinance. I don't have the old ordinance. If you have the old ordinance. It's not, is it on there?
What's the section?
You have the old ordinance?
What's the section?
4.202. Well, it could be in the definitional section of.
special exception was before the planning commission, whether you said it or you didn't, with multiple pages. We have transcripts of their discussion. We have transcripts of their recommending that conditions of some of our approvals, our land development approvals, be conditioned on getting the special exception. And they're all valid. We have transcripts of all of that.
Okay.
So,
Well, if we're gonna submit, I'm not
Mark,
objecting
you tell
to-
me what you want to do. Here's the dilemma that I see, right? If we don't submit it, right, and I don't know what the board's gonna do, but the ordinance is pretty clear. If they don't send it, you run the risk of it being denied or something like that. If you do send it, you come back and the board makes a decision.
yes, I want you to send it,
Okay.
but I believe that it's already been
And that very moment, that's, to me, that's a separate issue. Yes.
And if
Okay.
it's been there, it doesn't matter whether you sent it or the man in the moon sent it.
but the ordinance, and I'll just refer to it on the record, in the definitions 2.131, board as defined in the section 4.202 is stated C zoning hearing.
Or at least as defined in the zoning ordinance as a whole.
Correct. And so that zoning provision refers to board as being a zoning hearing.
Yep, okay.
So send it there.
Yep.
and that'll take care of that.
Yep.
I think we've covered a lot of things, Mr. Birmingham. Anything else that you're concerned or the board are concerns about this particular special exception?
Objection asked and answered.
I just think one of the concerns, at the earlier zoning hearing board meetings, there was discussion about the grass, and the grass, how it wouldn't be fit for consumption by, cows, I think it was referred to, or horses, or whatever. Someone had testified, one of the experts had testified with that, and that, it might have been Ebert, but I believe it was, and that's a concern, we're talking about animals that this drip irrigation is going to affect. So the board is concerned that there wasn't an appropriate investigations on the correct testing. That's an ongoing concern. There's concern about the potential impact on downstream property owners, and that's from an environmental standpoint, a health standpoint, and even their property values. Another concern is like I said earlier, the lack of transparency. We don't even know who the tenant is. So how can we determine the impact? All this is really based on speculation at this point. And like I was saying, I got people who live up and down Potomac Street calling me all the time. And I don't think even on the zoning hearing board that certain members aren't taking an objective, unbiased view on this, that they've approached other residents in town, and even asking about a drip irrigation system. This all is a big concern of the supervisors, and it's our job to make sure that the general welfare, health, and safety of our residents are protected. Guys, they can put it on the RPL property. Our earlier 537 plan stated that there was appropriate, we looked at RPL land.
You could call the witness. You could call the witness to testify to all this. He can't testify to this.
Yes, I can, because I read the 537 plan. I read the 537 plan, solicitor. And in the 537 plan, we looked at the RPL property before RPL owned it. And our engineer in the 537 plan said that there was land suitable on RPL's land that could handle the drip irrigation system. Guys, make them put it there. Make them put it there. Don't don't let it,
You wanted to turn this into a political spot. That's why this is their own meeting. They have a meeting for this.
don't let them don't let them put it in a residential part of town. They can put it in
Okay.
the industrial part of town.
Okay.
Do the right thing, guys.
Go ahead, Mark.
Mr. Birmingham, did the Board of Supervisors pass a resolution expressing their concerns about this application? Yes or no?
In what sense, a resolution? Stating what?
Stating that they have what their concerns are
About this project,
about this project, about the
drip irrigation.
the drip irrigation.
A resolution?
Yes.
I think we've stated our concerns
What
time and
action-
time again.
What action,
Hang
what
on, hang-
official action?
A
question
resolution
was a
doesn't do
resolution.
anything.
Was a
what
resolution
official
passed?
action-
An ordinance is law, a resolution is an acknowledgement.
Excuse me.
Can,
Did the
please, can we
Board
just
of
answer the question?
Supervisors or pass?
In terms of a resolution, no.
Did-
Okay.
No, they didn't pass a resolution. Did the Board of Supervisors authorize you to come here and testify on behalf of that board?
Yes.
At what meeting did they do that?
We've talked about that in executive session, and that's attorney-client privilege.
No, it's not.
It's our strategy. It's our legal strategy.
Just so we understand, you never put this on an agenda, and you never passed a resolution or a motion that authorized you to come here and testify on behalf of the Board of
I
Supervisors.
just second objection on, in what universe is required that you put the supervisor's position on a zoning application on an agenda to have them come testify?
Under the Sunshine
That's,
Act.
that is a
No, listen. Whether he had to or not is the question. I'm gonna overrule the objection.
Right.
The question is what was it again? Did you do that, or did the board do that?
Did the board
Was there official
take
action?
action authorizing the chairman to come here and speak on behalf of the board? We know of no resolution.
So
There's
the
no
question is-
resolution. I've already answered that.
Was there any official action, I think, was the next question? Any vote, anything like that from the board of supervisors?
No.
Okay.
Now, this exhibit that Adrian gave you, that's unmarked, it's the Carroll Engineering November 15 review of a planning module. Is that correct?
That'll be township 1 or 2, whatever we ultimately decide it is, once we figure it out.
Are you talking about the November 15th,
That was
2020?
my question, yes. This is a review of the planning module that RPL's expert, Mr. Ebert, submitted, isn't it?
That's what it says in the subject line.
Okay, but is that what it is? Do you have any question that it's a review of our planning module?
I don't have a question.
Okay, and that planning module had to be submitted before November 15th, 2023, right?
I don't know, I don't remember the exact date
Well, the
offhand.
letter is dated, the letter is dated November 15th, 2023. So that planning module had to be submitted to Carroll Engineering before November 15th, 2023, didn't it?
I don't know. I don't know offhand.
Well,
He wrote the letter on November 15th, 2023. That's what I do know.
You do know, and it's of a planning module that he reviewed on November 15th, 2023, correct?
Maybe. I don't know when he reviewed it.
What?
He wrote the letter on November 15th, 2023.
You said that you read the planning module, right?
I said that?
You said.
I read this letter.
No,
That's
no,
what I
you
said.
testified a couple of minutes ago that you read the planning module.
No, I testified that I read the letter from Justin Coyle.
So clarify. Did you read the planning module?
Not in its entirety. I relied on Justin.
Okay.
Okay, So, do you know whether Mr. Ebert responded to the November 15, 2023 letter by submitting a revised planning model? Do you know whether that happened?
Do you know if it happened or not?
I don't know.
Okay.
Did you look at Exhibit 7 that's in this proceeding? Did you look at the exhibit number 7?
A7.
Yeah, it's A7.
I don't know what that is.
It's a planning module, isn't it?
Oh, that's what the title says.
Yeah, and what's the date of it?
You can see it, it's right there.
Yeah, what's the date of it, Mr. Birmingham?
It's December 12th, 2023.
So that's after the letter that you read, right?
This letter?
Yes.
Yeah, that, December 12th comes after November 15th.
So there was the conclusion is that there was a revised planning module submitted. Isn't that correct?
Well, that's your conclusion.
What is your conclusion if it says, if it's
I-
in exhibit?
It came December 12th, and that comes after November 15th.
So there, the logic is that this December 12th planning module responded to the Carroll Engineering letter.
I would ask,
Go ahead.
I would ask Justin Coyle that question.
No, I'm asking.
He's the expert, he's the expert.
You-
I'm not the expert.
No, all we're asking is whether or not a planning your testimony was that that letter was not responded to by Mr. Ebert.
Objection, that was not his
That
testimony.
was
I
exactly.
thought
No, that
The
wasn't.
testimony was, were the things that were addressed in that letter addressed by Mr. Ebert? Not whether it was responded to.
He said it wasn't. He said it wasn't.
He said,
He absolutely said it wasn't.
Correct.
We're sitting here.
and the question was not whether there was a response to it,
The
whether the
record-
response
The
was.
record will show what
Exactly,
it is.
the record will
The
show what
record
it
will
was.
show
And
what it
the question was, was that particular issue addressed? And he
The
said no.
record,
Well,
that's
does he
the
know?
point you're arguing.
If he's never seen that module before, how would he know if it was addressed or not?
Again, he relies upon the engineer, that's his testimony.
That's what I
But
said.
his testimony was that we did not respond to Justin
That's,
Coyle's letter.
again, not his testimony.
Well, then, okay. And are you aware that there was another version of the planning module submitted in July of this year?
I would have to go back and look at my records.
No.
That's what I would have to do.
So
Then you don't know, do you? You don't
I would
know
have to
whether-
go back and look at my records.
As you sit here today, do you know?
It's not to the best of my recollection.
That's fine.
I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Blazy?
Doug, any questions?
Yes. Let me pass for the moment, I don't think I.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Tripoli, anybody else? Party status? Mr. Engel? Okay.
I'm allowed to make a comment, or is this a question?
Do you have a question? This is time for a question for Mr. Birmingham.
No.
Okay.
Is that done? No? Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Birmingham. It's nice to see you. You said that you were here representing the Board of Supervisors this evening in questioning the drip irrigation. Is that correct?
I was called as a witness by Adrian Cousins. And he asked me the overall view of the supervisors.
You play a nice game to the crowd, but let's get down to facts. Did the Board of Supervisors, at any public meeting or an executive session or whatever, unanimously tell you to come here tonight to oppose this drip irrigation?
They were informed of what was going on.
I think I think his answer before was no. That nobody officially,
No,
there was no official action taken.
You don't know how to do that honestly. So you showing.
No. Your question was, did anybody authorize, but you're talking about specific action taken, official
Right.
action taken. I think his answer before was no,
correct.
so.
So you're here representing
It's
yourself.
I've already answered the question.
Believe me, I have standing, so I can ask you a lot of questions.
Go for it.
So you're basically here representing yourself? But you just said that.
No, I said there was no official action
Okay,
taken.
so you're here now representing yourself as chairman of the board.
I said there was no official action taken.
Can you have him answer the question? It's a simple question. Or you're here then, on
He's
behalf of
trying to get
yourself.
an answer that I can't give him.
That's ridiculous. I asked you a question.
Are you here on behalf of yourself? You could be on behalf of yourself, doesn't mean you're not on behalf of the Board of Supervisors too.
I could be both, I don't know.
Okay, well then that's your answer.
And you have a law degree and you don't understand that? I don't have any degrees and I at
Yeah,
least understand.
Ron, I don't wanna get it.
If he's
please,
gonna attack me, I'm
please,
getting
please,
off the stand.
Listen.
If you're gonna attack me,
He's
Ron,
gonna
I'm
get
getting
off
off
the
this.
stand, so I can't ask questions?
Well, don't attack
Okay,
me.
so can you please answer my question? Are you here representing yourself this evening?
I think he said his answer was both.
Okay.
Wait, I'd like to hear him answer.
I've already answered it. I'm not gonna give you, they're trying to get an answer from me that, oh, okay, we finally got the answer we wanted, great. I gave the answer, Counselor.
Has this not been a circus? Can you just tell him that you're on behalf of both?
I've already answered.
That's-
Move on.
Okay.
I'll move on when I feel like it. Yeah, why don't you feel like it? Mr. Birmingham, did you discuss becoming here this evening with any members, individual members of the board?
I mean, I've already answered the
Did you,
question.
it's a different question. Did you come here with any individual members of the board?
No,
Why didn't you discuss any single member of the
Oh,
board?
was discuss it? I thought he said, did you come here with?
I drove here by myself.
Did you discuss it with members of the board? I think you testified that you did because you said it was the general sentiment of the board. I think you've kind of implied that you had
About
a
my
discussion.
testimony tonight?
What's that?
About my testimony tonight?
Are you talking about his testimony tonight? Did he discuss his testimony tonight with the board?
I'm asking a single question, I'm trying to break it down here. He said he wasn't, nothing was discussed at a board meeting or whatever. So my question is, are you then representing yourself and any maybe one or two other members who you've talked to who have the same opinion as you?
It's the same question.
It's not
Yes
the
or no?
same
Yes or
question.
no? No? Yes?
I've spoken to other members of the board.
Okay, could you tell me which members?
I've spoken to all. I speak to every board of supervisor. We all communicate with each other on an individual basis.
You're familiar, I'm sure, as an attorney, there is a sunshine law, but.
Now, the sunshine law is when
All right,
there's
all right.
three or more at one time talking about
So you
business.
do it all individually, I understand. There's two test cases on that too, by the way.
That, no.
Okay, let me refresh your memory on something else. You're familiar with attorney Christopher Spitoni, I believe, right?
Yes,
Does he, at any point in time, has he ever represented you?
no,
Has he represented any of the members of the board or any other organizations of which you're aware of?
I have no recollection.
No recollection. So could you tell me then why Mr. Spadoni would be carbon copying you in a letter that was sent to Mr. DeFelice?
I don't, comment.
If he knows.
I don't know.
He doesn't know, John.
Ron.
He doesn't know.
You know what, it's pretty evident.
Please, Ron.
It's pretty evident you got to be chairman of the board of supervisors.
It's pretty evident who you are. Now, your crowd likes you. The real issue is.
Ron,
your credibility.
Ron,
All right, it's over,
you're the
it's over.
one who sold,
It's over. It's over. It's over.
Which money did you get?
It's over.
Ron, I know, but Ron's the one who sold the farm to RPL.
What'd you say? He said fuck you.
That's exactly what you said.
Okay.
Hey, Counselor, you should come to a supervisor meeting.
Anybody else have questions?
You have a question? Anybody else have a question, Mr. Birmingham? No? Board members?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
To clarify the kind of testing, you said that the wells should be tested before and after the installation. Are you talking about quality, like toxic, industrial solvent, metal, you said heavy metals, or are you talking levels, water levels, height and depth of water?
No, no, the first, where you're going, the different,
Quality.
yeah.
I-
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Birmingham, and I know I've asked this question before, and it's very specific, and I want to make sure that everybody understands this specific application. Is it your understanding that, with respect to this application, that the intent of the applicant is to turn over the plant and the drip irrigation system to either a municipal authority or township or some sort of public entity?
Well, that's a concern. That's a concern because this is for a private developer, right? It's not, I know what your question is, but my concern is that this drip irrigation system is not benefiting the public.
But-
And even if it's getting turned over to, say, the township or the municipal authority, even though
Okay.
that
got
is
it.
dissolved, in my opinion, that it would, I guess at that point, come to the township. But, again, this is for a private developer. The public's not benefiting
Right,
from it.
but with respect to, if the township or the municipal authority owned it, right, owned the sewers, the treatment system? I said if. But that's what the application is. The application tonight is that the applicant is intending to turn it over to the municipal authority or something to make it a public work. Okay, I'm just asking. Who would be in control, your understanding? What's your understanding of who would be in control once the township or the authority owned it over determining what type of customers or waste is coming into that treatment plant?
Well, I don't really know what their intentions are. I mean, that's the lack of transparency here.
They've applied.
Yeah, I know they've applied.
And you are aware that they've testified that their intent for this is to turn it over to the township or the municipal authority, whether that exists or whatever, right?
That's what they say their intent is.
That's
Whether-
what the application is.
Yeah.
If they were applying for, they didn't apply for a variance.
Right, I know that.
So we're not even considering this being a private irrigation system. The zoning board is not.
Right.
Once, if it was approved, if it was built, if it was turned over to the authority or the township, what is your understanding over who would have control over that system, including what type of wastewater comes into that system?
Well, if it goes to the township, right, then the township has it.
If it goes to the authority, then,
Well, the authority is dissolved, in our opinion.
right, I'm saying if the authority exists, because I guess that's a legal question at this point, at least it's being disputed. If the authority exists, if a judge down in Northampton County or above says that the authority still exists, and it's turned over to the authority, who's your understanding would have control over that system, including what comes into that system?
I guess it would be the authority at that point. But we
Right,
don't
if
know
you-
what's coming into town yet.
No. Right, my question is who would be able to control what comes into that system? Because if you own the system, or if the township owned the system, or if the authority owned the system, they could determine to let somebody in or not, right?
Objection.
No.
I think that's vast speculation at this point, and
How is it speculation? I mean, that's how authorities work.
if you know.
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Okay. Who would have the ability to, if the township or the authority owned it, who would have the ability to make that determination?
I guess maybe who owned it, that would be my guess. But,
Okay.
but we don't know what's coming in, so we don't know what to even test.
If you owned it,
I'm sorry, you don't know when it's coming? No.
what is coming in, I think you said.
What is coming in.
Right, and my question is that, and maybe you don't know, are you aware of whether or not when someone applies for sewage service, that they would have to submit some sort of application,
Right.
right? And that if they submitted the application, that could be subject to inspections by the authority or township?
If that's the process that's followed.
But who would be able to determine what the process is my question.
It could be the municipal authority, it could be the township.
You would agree with me that the municipal authority or the township would be the ones that could make the rules as far as what comes in, what testing's done, what's allowed in, what's not.
Hector owns it.
Pector does not own it. He doesn't own the sewer authority.
But he's got control over the municipal authority.
What do you mean control of the municipal
Check
authority?
the money.
If you know.
I
Right.
don't know.
Okay. Okay. That's all I got.
Anybody from the board, please? No?
No?
Township doesn't have any other witnesses at this point.
9:21. Do we want to get through public comment? I know we're going to continue this hearing because I know that there are people that are not here that may have otherwise been here. Are there, well, well, yeah, first of all, what? Yeah, but we can do that stuff first. I guess I should ask, are there any individuals who have party status that are here tonight that have any evidence that they want to introduce? No, any witnesses that they want to introduce? Okay, do we want to do public comment?
Yes.
Does anybody want to do public comment? Sir, yeah, if you want to start, we can start. Yeah. So we're going to be done at 10. I'm going to give some leeway here tonight because I don't know how many people, if you could just raise your hand, that you want to give public comment tonight, just so I can get a count so we can figure out. 1, 2, 3, so I think 1, 5, okay.
Will there be another opportunity?
Next week, next meeting, yeah.
I have party status next to this.
Yeah,
Do you comment somewhere or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
name, address, sorry.
Jeff Joy, 62 Summerfield Drive, Mount Bethel, Pennsylvania. Jeff Joy, J-O-Y, 62 Summerfield Drive, Mount Bethel, Pennsylvania. Okay? Okay, I purchased my house on Summerfield Drive in July of 2019. There is no disclosure in this area of Pennsylvania, I understand that the owner has to disclose any known projects like this. Had I known at that time that this project was even considered, I never would have bought that house. If I was to buy that house now, and I knew about the project, I wouldn't buy it now. Okay? There's a sign on all the entrances to this town, gentlemen. You've all seen it. It says, "Welcome to Mount Bethel, a nice rural community." If this project is allowed to go through, you need to change the sign to "Welcome to Mount Bethel, what used to be a nice rural community." That's all I got to say.
Who's next? Is Tripoli, yeah, good.
Raise your hand. You may have this form before, but I'll do it again. You do solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Thanks.
okay. My name is Joe Tripoli. I live on 65 Sunrise Boulevard. We own the preserved land that starts on the corner of Potomac and Sunrise and goes back south 122 acres. I was approached twice by the developer to put drip irrigation on our property, and I turned them down twice. The first time, it was a phone call that I got that was on April 19th, 2022 at 9:05 a.m. And at that time, the fellow said, "How would you like to make money?" And I said, how would I do that? And they said, by putting drip irrigation on your property. And I said, well, for openers, it's preserved land, and I can't do anything without going through Maria Benzoni, who is the Farmland Preservation Administrator. And the fellow said, "Oh no, don't call Maria, she's not happy with us." I said, okay, I'm not gonna call. Okay. Then I was approached again, this time in person, on July 15th, 2022, at 11 o'clock in the morning. This time there was a knock on the door. Fellow says, how would you like drip irrigation on your property? And I said, no, we don't want drip irrigation. We don't want sewage water on the property. So he said, okay, and he left. Okay. So I said to my wife, that's the second time that we were approached for drip irrigation. Now I am going to call Maria Benzoni and ask her. So I called Maria at 2:13 in the afternoon on July 15, 2022. And I said to her, Maria, what do you think about drip irrigation on preserved land? She said, absolutely not. No sewage water, no drip irrigation on preserved farmland. Now, my question is, Mr. Angle is right on the west side of Potomac. Our property begins on the east side of Potomac. And my question is, how come it's okay to put drip irrigation sewage water on the west side, but does Maria Benzoni know something that they don't know, that she said no drip irrigation, no sewer water on preserved land? That's my question.
Your question is, do we know if Maria Benzoni knows something about that?
Well, she said absolutely no drip irrigation injected into preserved land.
Okay.
Now, right across the street is drip irrigation on regular land. So does Marie know something that you guys don't know?
You're gonna have to ask Maria, I have no idea. I don't think the board knows.
Okay. All right. Well, then my next comment is, if you go on the Upper Mount Bethel Township website, your official website, there's an icon that you can click on called RPL Water and Sewer. It's on the website. And if you click on that, there are 3 drawings from eBird Engineering on the Mount Bethel website. And one of them is called Drip Zone Layout. The other one is called Conceptual Water System. And the third one is called Conceptual Sanitary Sewer System. And those 3 drawings show the layout of the 90 acres, the 900 acres or 700, whatever it is, with the houses, with the warehouses, and the sewer lines that come out of each building, with the pumping stations. There's 13 of them that pump into a regular pumping station that pumps up to the treatment plant, which is the closest to our land on Sunrise. And then somehow it gets over to Mr. Angle's property, which isn't contiguous to the RPL property. So my question is, how, Mr. Ebert would have to answer that question, I guess, how does the sewer water get from the treatment plant on the southernmost part of the property over to Mr. Angle's property if the properties aren't connected? Now, to me, the only way it can get over there is if it goes under Potomac Street through Cloverleaf, the Saddle Creek, the saddle plant that they bought. That's the only way it can get over to Mr. Angle's property. But there's no drawing that shows that. And there's no drawing that also shows where the drip irrigation lines go on Mr. Angle's property. And I believe Mr. Blasey had asked, how close are the lines that are injected into the ground, how close are they to Summerfield? And there is no drawing that I could see that shows where the 25 acres of the drip irrigation injected into the ground goes. So my question to Mr. Ebert, who's not here, was you've got 3 drawings on the property, on the website, on the Upper Mount Bethel Township website, showing all kinds of sewer lines and everything, but there's no drawing that shows where how the sewage water gets to Mr. Angle's property, and then where does it get injected into the ground. And I think it's very important that Mr. Blasey had asked, how close is it to the Summerfield people? and I don't think he ever got an answer. So, is there a drawing?
Your question is where does it discharge?
How does it get from the treatment plant?
Yeah, I know that was one question. How does it go, whether it goes under the road or not? But your second question is that you don't think that any of the plans show where it's gonna discharge?
Yes, there's no drawing, it shows the 90 acres.
Isn't
but
it the
doesn't-
25 acres?
It does not, it shows the land, but it does not show the lines. And Mr. Ebert had I think it was a half-inch PVC pipe that he said was gonna be buried 8 inches below grade.
That has not been designed yet. That will be designed part of the DEP process. The actual, you're asking the location or how those emitters, that's not designed yet.
So the,
But they're gonna, just so I'm clear, they're gonna be in the area that you designated as the drip irrigation field,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
it's gonna be in the 25 acres.
Correct.
Of the 90 acres.
correct.
But there's no drawing that shows that.
They're gonna be in the
Nor
25
is there a
acres.
requirement at this point.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did you say nor is there a requirement?
All right, then my last comment is, when this project was first proposed, it was proposed in this building, and there was a screen up here that showed a drawing of the proposed warehouses. And they did a handout, and here, this is it here. And it's a 8.5 by 11 handout, and the drawing number is CD 1000. And the print is so small that you can't read it, even with a magnifying glass. You can't read it. But when I had it, I went to Staples and I had it blown up. And according to this, on Pine Tree Lane, it showed spray irrigation.
Are these the plans that were submitted as part of this application?
No. No, I asked for an SK 3000 from Mr. Kaplan, and I never got it.
Would you agree that that plan is not relevant if it's not the one that was submitted here?
Well, it shows exactly where the warehouses go, the property boundaries and everything, but it shows spray irrigation instead of drip irrigation.
Is there any doubt in your mind what the application is for?
This application is for drip irrigation. But it goes back to what John Birmingham said, that if you have 900 acres or 800 acres, and it originally had spray irrigation, why couldn't you go back to spray irrigation?
I think
And not
the
the
testimony.
drip irrigation, and then the whole problem
I
goes
think the
away.
testimony was that DEP would only allow, spray irrigation is, I think, the least preferred, or at least, that there was a step that whether it be discharged directly into a tributary or a water source, there was spray irrigation and then there was drip irrigation.
Spray irrigation requires huge lagoons to carry like 3 months
but
of.
But my understanding too also was that the drip irrigation was the preferred system that DEP, I don't know if that's true or not, but that was what I recall the testimony being, was that drip irrigation was the preferred of the three options.
Okay, well, all I can tell you for sure is that the original proposal was for spray
Sir,
irrigation.
that's stormwater spray. You're looking at stormwater spray.
Well, if I had a bigger copy of CD 1000, I could tell you, but it was so small you can't read it.
Well, the representation is that does not relate to
Okay,
sewage treatment,
that's all I have.
affluent, okay, thank you. Mr. Friedman?
I do. David Friedman, 367 Gapview Lane, Mount Bethel, PA, 18343. I'm a supervisor, but I'm not here to speak on behalf of the board and only myself. And there's a couple of things that the board should be aware of. First of all, the authority is dissolved. For all intents and purposes, there is no authority. Second of all, there's talk about the Planning Commission having heard about the drip irrigation or the zoning hearing special meeting tonight. As of January 2020, to today's date, that did not appear on any agenda. on the planning commission. And even if it had, this place would have been packed. You wouldn't have been able to get in here. So, it has never appeared in front of the planning commission for discussion. Second of all, this authority was formed for one purpose, and one purpose only, to supply water and sewage to the I-2, I-3 zone. In that effect, it's a private entity that wants to put a drip irrigation on a residential zone. Until the authority is either reestablished or the township officially takes over, there's no reason that this drip irrigation should be placed there for a private entity. And second of all, even Mr. Fleece brought this to our attention. There is something called, when he, appropriate. Appropriate is suitable or proper in the circumstances. Is it appropriate to put a drip irrigation field in an R1 zone where people have some expectation of health, safety, and welfare? Is it appropriate to put a drip irrigation field when the product of that drip irrigation field will be grass that can't even be given to animals that will have anything to do with human consumption? Is it appropriate to put that drip irrigation there when, if you remember, there's supposed to be a secondary drip irrigation field at the ball field in the park? Remember that. Now they're saying, all right, that this is the only place that might be suitable for that. Well, why was it suitable there when you could pick up a baseball and throw it onto RPL's property? And they could have 25 acres there that they could have put this drip irrigation.
David, say that again. We could have 25 acres where?
You have 25 acres right next to the ball field, where a secondary drip irrigation was supposed to be put to furnish drip irrigation in case the township wanted to tie into your sewage treatment
Supposed to be
plant.
on the park,
The ball field is in the park.
so it's owned by the township.
It is owned by the township.
And you reneged on that, didn't you?
I didn't renege on anything.
Are you offering it now?
No, I'm not offering it now. But I'm saying, there has been testimony, but that where the present R1 zone was the only zone that was appropriate for the strip irrigation field.
So is
When
that,
in fact, there was a section in the park that was appropriate for a drip irrigation field.
is that in the
And it's-
R1 zone?
Pardon?
Is that in the R1 zone?
No, it's in the park.
What zone is that? So I'm just trying to find out which one it is.
Oh, wait.
Oh, it's in the industrial park, you're saying?
No.
You're saying it's in the, like,
It's in
Recreational park,
It's in
okay.
the Upper Mount Bethel Recreation Park.
the park is in, the recreational park is in the R1 district, right?
I don't know if it's in the R1 or not.
The park is R1, I'm looking at it.
Okay, the park is R1. But even there, it was,
I've got a couple questions. for
Okay,
you about that.
all right.
all right, we'll get to you, because that's all I have for now. Mr. Captain.
Let's start with, you said that the authority is for all intents and purposes dissolved, right?
As far as I know, yes.
And you know that the township has filed a lawsuit to force the authority to dissolve. You know that, don't you?
Yes.
So it is not dissolved, is it?
As far as I'm concerned, it is.
There was
As
a
far
vote-
as you're concerned.
There was a vote to dissolve it, right?
Yes, there was a vote to dissolve it, yes, which is the Board of Supervisors
Prerogative?
prerogative.
If it was your prerogative, you wouldn't have had to sue to force it. And there's a lawsuit. It's a law.
Mark,
What?
he's not even a witness.
Yeah, in fact, I'm not,
He's making statements.
in fact, this is a comment period, and I fear I'm not gonna answer any more of his
He's gonna say
questions.
it's his opinion that.
It's a comment period.
In his opinion,
Well,
it's
I
his.
have, so that we get something straightened out here. Mr.
I'm not
Freeman,
answering any more of your questions, Mr. Kaplan. This is a comment period, I'm not a witness.
well,
I'm not answering any more of your questions.
I'm going to ask you.
You can ask all you want, that's all I have. Thank you, gentlemen.
And,
You wanna ask something, go ahead, he doesn't have to answer it.
yeah, the park. The township had an area of the park investigated before we were involved by Joe Valentine. there's about 20 acres of that park that would be suitable for drip irrigation. When we first started to talk to the township about this sewer system, we included that park area so that there would be capacity not only for us, but for 30,000 gallons per day for the township.
Sure.
The Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission.
Listen. No, listen.
Cross-examine me. The Board of Supervisors said, when people started to get upset at this plan, the Board of Supervisors said, no, take it out. There were drafts of agreements that were circulated, reviewed by Ron Karasek on the township's website, where it showed, where the agreements provided that we would build it and they would get 30,000 gallons. They told us no.
Our children are more important.
What?
Our children are more important.
Okay. So what Mr. Friedman said is just not right.
I mean, the way he described it there, it sounds like that may be something that's worth discussing again. Maybe it's not me, but,
Is he commenting, Mr. DeFelice?
no, it's over. Public, what do you have, Doug?
Question of Mr. Freed's.
Well, he's not a witness. Do we want to let Mark, I'm not going to let Mark question him. Do you want to question? I mean,
When you said Mark would ask a question, and Mark just.
no, I thought Mark was going to answer a question, honestly.
Let
But
me just then make a statement.
go ahead.
With my understanding, I believe the park is subject to restrictive covenants because it was bought with state money, and I don't think,
So it's not an option?
I don't believe it's an option.
This is total speculation. What document do you have?
Well, no. I mean, listen. You had a statement from a Board of Supervisors member saying that the park was an option. Now we have a party opponent saying it's not an option. I don't know. Go ahead, Mr. Clark, if you want,
Yeah, just a point of order.
do you want to have a public comment?
I
What do you
want,
mean a
no, I
point of
want
order?
to understand this process.
Yes.
Is public comment normally followed by rebuttal or testimony? Because I just, because if we're gonna have more next meeting, we need, I'm sorry, I don't tell you what to do. It would be helpful if we knew that we were gonna be questioned.
Well, generally, no. But when
Okay.
you ask a question, and we have questions, when you step up to the mic and you say, I have questions about this, why isn't this happening, why isn't this? Generally speaking, that generally elicits a response or an answer to that question. Or I would like you to get an answer to the question, if you can.
So if we phrase our comments not in the form of a question, then we shouldn't expect to be cross-examined or have testimony follow what we have to say. I'm just trying to understand.
No, I mean, I guess it depends on what you say. If you get up here and you say something that's blatantly wrong, inaccurate, well, then I would expect someone to say, hey, that's wrong.
Okay, that's fine.
And I would want the board to know if something was
But
inaccurate.
does that happen in rebuttal? I guess that's what.
What do you mean in rebuttal?
Isn't there like some sort of a period where there's rebuttal or you can?
Yeah, meaning if there was evidence that was presented by any of the party opponents to this, Mr. Kaplan would have the opportunity to present rebuttal evidence if he wanted to call Mr. Ebert back, if he wanted to call Mr. Valentine back, if he wanted to call somebody in response to Mr. Sterling's testimony.
But we passed that now. I'm trying to understand the.
Yeah, I think we are. You're not
Okay,
calling
we're
anybody
past
else.
it. Okay,
Yeah,
so we're past that. Public comment's gonna be made.
correct.
Things will be challenged. We're
What do you mean
swearing
things
in.
will be challenged?
Well, no, what I'm saying is we're swearing in every time. I've never been to a meeting.
You're only sworn in, you're sworn in if you give a statement here.
Right, but is Dave a party? Is Dave Friedman?
No, this is public comment.
That was public comment. He still had to be sworn in.
Okay, all right. Yeah, but he swore to tell the truth and everything. And, okay, is that what you do in public comment in these meetings?
You don't get sworn in at public comment at Board of Supervisors meetings?
No. So that's.
So you guys can get up there and say whatever you want without any penalty of perjury? Wow, that explains quite a bit. That explains quite a bit.
All right, I guess.
That explains quite a bit. I would suggest, I think, listen, and I've seen some of the meetings on YouTube,
Okay.
but I would suggest you swear people in.
Okay.
But supervisors aren't quasi-hearings, quasi-judicial hearings.
It's a meeting.
Regardless.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, we just knew them.
Never get anything done.
Can we finish public comment?
No, there might, hey, Mr. Friedman, there actually be maybe less public comment because people will only get up there if they're gonna tell the truth.
So do you envision like oral arguments
Correct.
Okay.
That less, at the next hearing. That's all gonna happen, we're gonna be done with this at the next hearing.
And then would public comment follow that?
No. No, public comments first, we'll do closing arguments from,
So what
The
is
parties-
this right now? Isn't this public comment?
there are others that, there were concerns about them not being here tonight because they didn't know we would get the public comment tonight. That was at least said.
Some of us want to hear finance president.
So, I mean, I think we got through quite a few of them, and look, if you gave public comment tonight, you're not gonna get an opportunity to give public comment again. So,
So are we done?
I think we're done now.
I have a very simple question.
Sure.
Who owns the property between, around between Potomac and the Drip property? Someone brought up a question about.
Do you have a parcel number?
Someone said Cloverleaf, but I don't know.
Let's see if we can get that, it doesn't have to be on the record. We can go off.
The Saddle Club owns it, we have an easement across.
Saddle Club. All right, then.
Do we wanna pick a date? Let's pick dates. Whoa, oh, well. The two other people that had their hands raised for public comment, I can't remember who they were exactly. Do you wanna wait until next week, next time? Is there anybody that you wanna speak tonight, or you wanna wait till next time? Okay. You wanna go tonight?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
just gonna give my opinion, not a question, just an opinion.
Okay.
I haven't been to any of these meetings.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Name and address.
Peter Coyle, 192 Allegheny Road. Mount-
COYL,
COYLE.
192.
Yeah, Allegheny Road. This is my first meeting pertaining to this. I'm aware of what's happening, but I just want to give my opinion and my wife's pertaining to this. I don't think wastewater from, chemical plant or whatever it is, industrial, whatever's going to go in there belongs in a residential area, period. There's hundreds of acres available that they already own. Find a spot for it there. That's it, thank you.
They're on 16th. All right, so dates. Planning Commission is the 16th of October. That's the next meeting? There's no
What?
September?
You said, did you say October?
Is this September? Hang on, she wrote it wrong, I think. I was gonna say. Wait a minute.
Yes, I thought the 18th of September.
Is planning?
Yes.
You got that, Mark?
What was, is there a date on the table?
18th of September is Planning Commission. That's likely going to be a motion to send it there.
So that's no good, I assume.
September 18th is when you would have to go to Planning Commission.
Oh, okay.
So, and then we were gonna pick a date after that, once it's at
Okay,
planning.
that's fine.
We're not changing that date, that's just a date. The 19th works, the 26th works, the 24th works.
19th works for me. What?
Hang on, let's see where, our regular meeting would be the 24th, we could keep that.
What happened to the 19th?
The 19th, I'm just saying, I'm just giving an alternate date, that our regular meeting would be the 24th, so I know everybody would be available then. Okay, so we have some members that might miss after the 21st, you said?
Yeah.
So let's look at the 19th, does that work? Adrian? You'll make it work?
We'll make it.
All right. Doug?
At the moment that's available, yes. Yes.
We're trying to figure that out.
Where are we?
We're trying to figure that out.
Why don't you do a hearing one day after the planning commission, and the planning commission may request some information that would be relevant to.
That's not what the ordinance says. That's not what the ordinance says. That's not what the ordinance says, it just has to go, it has to be sent there. Whether a planning commission makes recommendations or not, that's up to the planning commission.
And if it's supposed
No, that's not right. Yeah, they can give us the feedback on the 19th, would be the idea. We can do it, like I said, I mean, we have issues with the board members not being available on the 21st, after the 21st.
But any decision by the planning commission has to go to the board of supervisors.
No, so, it does not. It comes back here. The way this ordinance is written is that the recommendation, that there needs to be a recommendation from this board to send it to the planning commission. That's all it says. For their recommendations. The zoning hearing board is not required to abide by any of the planning commission's recommendations. They're a completely independent body. So, I mean, in hindsight, this would have been done in February or March.
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah. We're gonna try to have everything here.
Thursday the 19th, are we set?
I think so. 7 o'clock we'll be here for the zoning hearing meeting, the zoning hearing. What did we say, September 19th? The 19th at 7 here. Okay, this is gonna be the notice, the continuation, so if there's other people that, I know there was some comment about other people that wanted to give public comment, if you can just let them know, 19th.
So you want oral argument?
Yeah, so in addition to, wow, I just say it this way, anything written that you would want to submit, I would encourage you to submit findings and fact conclusions of law, so I don't have to try to piece through what you guys think are important as far as facts, but if you don't, I will. The other thing too is just, I would like any conditions that the township is proposing be attached to any sort of approval, if they're so inclined. I would just like, I always ask this, that you provide the conditions so that we know what they are, if that's something that is considered. And 3, if you can give me at least a list, I think, Mark, you'll probably be okay, but just double check, a list of all of the exhibits that you believe that you submitted. Right, we'll have the transcripts. It's just, if I could just have literally a list from each of you that just says, A1 is whatever, and Mark, like I said, you're basically done, you have it here.
Yeah,
I just don't know
I
if-
have that,
There may be like 2 or 3 other things that you
other
added,
stuff, yeah.
but if you could, just give me a list. Okay, I think that's it. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Before we leave, we have to do a motion to send this to Planning Commission for September 18th. There's a motion. Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Everybody's in agreement. I think that's it, right? And nothing else? Motion to adjourn.